channel. So for today's video, we are back with our last spooky build of October. So, well, that's kind of a lie, but I'll talk about that closer to the end. So this is the Myers home from the cult classic Halloween. Now, Halloween is so it's not my favorite scary movie because The Exorcist is my favorite, but it has a special place in my heart. So Halloween was the first ever like cult classic original, those scary movies you see everywhere on like every Halloween, every October. It was my first one that I had ever gotten into. I was, I believe, 6 or 7, and I had watched it at my grandmother's house. Now, for those of you who also might not know, my grandfather did just pass away, and it is that household that I watched it in. So right now, it even holds a little bit more of a special place in my heart. But I watched, and it wasn't even the original. I was sitting with my grandmother, my mom, my grandfather, and my sister, and my grandmother turned on Halloween because she thought it was the original, but it was Halloween H2O, which came out the year I was born. Actually came out in 1998, and it was about Laurie Strode, who is the main character from the first one, and it was 20 years later, and Michael Myers had come back again to try and kill her again, but this time she has a son who she like parents really hard. She runs a school, she's in charge, she's like the dean of some private Catholic college or high school, and it takes place on Halloween. Obviously they all do. And except for the third one, I think it's the third one that it doesn't only take place on Halloween. It like starts like a couple days beforehand. I think that's the third one. But anyway, most of them take place on Halloween night, and Halloween H2O, he like comes back and he starts trying to kill Laurie and her kid. But so that was the first one that I had watched, and like I said, I was either 6 or 7, and Michael Myers terrified me. I don't know what it was. It was not my first scary movie. I had seen other scary movies, but for some reason, the idea of a masked man strolling around on Halloween night amongst everyone else who was wearing masks and all of the other children scared the crap out of me, and I could not sleep. I had nightmares of Michael Myers chasing me, and it was just, I was always terrified until one Halloween. I was in the 3rd grade. I was either 3rd or 4th grade, and my mom made me a costume. My mom usually, for a couple of years, she was making me and my sister our costumes. And my sister was Betty Boop, and I was a pincushion. Yes, you heard me correctly. Kind of like that lady from Halloween Town, the original, the one who is the secretary for Calabar, how she comes around and she has all those notes stuck to her. I basically looked like that. It was a giant tomato-shaped pin cushion, and I had these fake pins that were like 2 feet in length, I want to say, that like stuck into the styrofoam of my costume, but they were removable. And so I was going trick-or-treating like I always did every single year, and I had a group of friends, and there was a couple of houses in the neighborhood that always did a little extra. You know, they had like fog machines and like strobe lighting and stuff, and my one friend was terrified to go up to this house, but every year I was like, no, I can do it, this isn't that frightening, blah 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 blah. That year, the person guarding the candy was dressed up as Michael Myers, and I flipped. I was like, oh my god, I can't do this, he's like stalking around running after kids with this fake knife. Like, I was terrified. But then I was like, but they have chocolate, and I love chocolate. And I was sitting there, and I was like, what's more important, the chocolate or the guy dressed up as Michael Myers? And so I'm like standing there, and I start walking up to the candy bowl. And of course, the parents from this house and from the neighborhood are sitting like away from the candy bowl, because the candy bowl is like at the front steps, because they wanted you to have to walk through their horror house thing. And so they're sitting like in the front yard by a fire pit watching me dressed as a pincushion go up to the stairs where the candy is, and Michael Myers like comes out, and I can see him out of the corner of my eye, and my mom is in the background like, oh no, she's gonna run, because I'm terrified of Michael Myers. But I I grabbed 2 of the pins from my pincushion costume and like pulled them out and like held them up like swords to fight this guy dressed as Michael Myers. Remind you, I was in like the 4th grade, okay? And this is probably either like a senior in high school or even older than that. 6 feet tall, dressed up as a serial killer, and I just like whipped out these pins to sword fight him dressed as a pincushion. And all I hear is all of the adults start cracking up that I'm sitting there like trying to fight this guy dressed as a pincushion. And like the guy who's dressed as Michael Myers like put his hands up and was like, "Oh no, I am not dealing with you." So he stepped back into the shadows. So I went up and I grabbed like 8 bars of candy because I was like, I am not doing this. I was like, I just fought off my worst fear. I am getting more than one measly piece of candy. So, and then I came back, and at the end of that night, I was like, I'm no longer terrified of Michael Myers. I had quite literally faced my fears and fought them with fake pins from a pincushion costume. So from that night on, I was no longer afraid of Michael Myers. In fact, I think I went home that night and asked Mom if we could watch the original Halloween, because I wanted to see what the original looked like instead of, this H2O one that I saw. And the original is actually kind of funny. So the original is the one that this house is based off of. I did my little background story over the entirety of the exterior, or most of the exterior. And as you can see, this house looks a little disheveled. So going into the actual movie and this build now, for those of you who don't know, Halloween is about Michael Myers. Technically, it's about Laurie Strode, but I prefer to say it's about Michael Myers. And when Michael Myers was 6, he killed his older sister Judith, and there is technically, I think, a book that has, or like a short story that has more of his background in it, and one of the later movies, I think it's like Halloween 6 or Halloween Revelation, I don't know, one of the later ones, because Halloween was one of those ones that kind of, it was such a cult classic that everyone was like, oh my god, we need like 80 of these, and you really didn't. Like the first 2 were fine. Like the new ones that have come out, Halloween 2018, that was a really good one. I did like that one. And I did actually like the one that I'm talking about, the Revelations one, or whatever, or Halloween Returns. I don't remember. I think it is the 6th one. But basically, it starts off with Laurie Strode in a mental institution. So if any of you follow the series, let me know in the comments down below which one is it that starts off with Laurie Strode in a mental institution. But basically, that movie, and I think there's a short story, give you a little bit more background on Michael Myers' home life, but the original movie sets it up that it's this white middle-class suburban family that has absolutely nothing wrong with them. They live in suburbia, it's a nice neighborhood, their daughter is nice and normal, her name's Judith. They have a nice job, they went out for a Halloween party, and all of a sudden, that night, for some reason, Michael Myers decides he's done. He doesn't want to do this, so he dresses up as a clown, which, coincidentally, I'm also terrified of clowns. Maybe that's where this one came from. But he dresses up as a clown, and he takes a knife out of the kitchen, and the whole scene is set up quite perfectly. So the first thing that you see when the movie comes up, first off, is a pumpkin. It's a jack-o'-lantern. That's where the credits. But then when the movie opens, you're looking into the house from the outside, and it's from Michael's point of view. You can tell because you're shorter to the ground, and he's a kid. And then you go and you look through the side window into the living room, and you see his oldest sister Judith and her boyfriend. I'm not quite sure if it's actually a boyfriend or if it's just a boy that she's interested in, and they're like making out on the couch, and then they go upstairs to do a little woohoo. That's some Sims talk for you. And he goes around back, grabs, very slowly, I might add, all while the iconic James Carpenter Halloween theme is playing in the background, which unfortunately I could not get the rights to, so that is not what's playing in this video. But he goes around back, goes in through this back door, the one that I'm building right now, this little back porch area, and that leads into the kitchen, where he grabs a knife and then walks through very slowly. Again, he has mastered that slow, but I will get there when I get there serial killer walk. And he goes through the kitchen, into the dining room, into the living room, which, as you can see right now in the build, I have placed some furniture so that you guys can see kind of his layout. You saw I placed like a small dining room table and then a couch. So he goes from that back kitchen into the dining room, into the living room, into the hallway, and that's where he sees the boyfriend leaving. And then he backs up back into the living room so the boyfriend doesn't see him. And then he walks up the stairs, and then he has to go through, which I find totally weird considering she's a teenager and he's like 6. He has to go through his bedroom to get to her bedroom. Now, I think that there is technically a hallway door to the sister's bedroom, but no, either way, they have like this conjoined bedroom thing, which is super weird to me. But so he goes up the stairs into his room where he grabs his mask for his clown costume. And then everything that you see is now through the eye holes of this mask. So it very much so like cuts out a part of your view, which is good because it gives you a little bit more of like a suspenseful feeling because you can't really see everything that's going on. You can only see a little bit. And he's watching his sister brush her hair on her vanity. And then she turns around and she's like, Michael! And then all of a sudden the music goes, dun, and then you see the knife raise through his like eye holes, and then it just keeps going down. Now, if you really pay attention, you'll notice that there is no blood on the knife for like the first 3 times that this kid supposedly stabs his sister, but that's just because this was a very low budget movie, but that's what makes it awesome. But then the sister like falls to the ground and she dies. But then he just walks out of the room, and that's how I know that there is a hallway entryway to this room, because he doesn't go backwards, he just keeps walking forwards, and he leaves the room, turns to the right, goes back down the stairs, and coincidentally his parents are coming home right at this moment, so he leaves through the front door, and then that scene ends with him standing at the base of the stairs, his parents just coming home from a party, he's covered in blood, he's holding the knife, he has this really blank stare on him, and they're saying, like, they're like, Michael, what happened? Michael, what happened? What happened? Where's your sister? Blah, 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 blah. And that's how the entry scene for that movie ends, and then it flash forwards 15 years, I believe it is, 15 years, back to Haydenfield, Illinois, where it took place, and you start seeing this girl called Laurie Strode, and Laurie Strode, you find out in the second movie that Michael Myers is her brother, although somewhere along the lines that storyline got messed up, and I think in the new ones he's no longer her brother. So the new ones, like, ignored, I'm pretty sure, every movie that came out after the original Halloween, even the second one, because I was looking through it because I didn't want to get it wrong for this video, and I kept, like, looking through and trying to find it, and I saw in a description of the second movie that Dr. Loomis is told that Laurie Strode was put up for adoption by the Myers family after what happened with Michael, and like the adoption was sealed because they wanted to protect the family. But then later on, I'm pretty sure in the new one, they explicitly say that people thought she was related to Michael, but she isn't. So I'm not but then in like Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, there's a younger girl who is Laurie Strode's daughter, because she keeps calling Michael Myers, everyone keeps calling him her uncle. So, which A, is weird. Like, why would you tell a child that her uncle was a serial killer? For me, I would want to know, but I wouldn't want to go to school and have people, like, mocking me and telling me, so I wouldn't want it out there. Like, I would want to personally know, but I wouldn't want people just going, oh yeah, hey, that's your uncle. Like, that would be weird. That would be traumatizing for a child. But, so in the fourth one, she is definitely related to Michael Myers, Laurie Strode is, but I'm pretty sure by the time the new ones come around, they just completely nix that storyline in the butt. But I'm not 100% sure, because I did only see the new one once. So don't quote me on that one, but I'm pretty sure somewhere along the lines the story got muddled. Anyway, Supposedly, initially, Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' younger sister. He was not aware, though, supposedly, that he had a younger sister, but in the scene, there's a scene in the original movie where Laurie Strode, her adoptive father is a real estate agent, and he asks her to drop a key off at the Myers house because he's going to try and sell it. And Michael Myers went home. That's what he did. When he left the mental institution, when he escaped at the beginning of the movie, 15 years after he killed his sister, he wants to go home. So he goes back to his house. And so when Laurie Strode shows up and drops off the key, he's there and he sees her. And there are some that argue that that's where his fixation came from. It's simply just because she was the first one that he saw. There are others that say she reminded him of his mother or his older sister, and that's where the fixation came from. Those who agree with the fact that they're related say it's because she looked like the rest of his family, and those who think that they're not related say that it's simply that it was the first person that he saw, because it was early in the morning. She was going off to school, and she was in high school, so it was probably around like 7 o'clock in the morning. But either way, he becomes fixated on her. And he follows her around and tries to kill her, just like he killed his sister. But in the process of killing her, he kills like 5 other teenagers. They're all her friends, so you get introduced to them as the movie goes on. And he goes around on Halloween night, and basically just in trying to find Laurie, he ends up coming in contact with a whole bunch of other people who end up just in his way and have to be taken out, if you get what I mean. But going into a little bit of the build, I know I've pretty much just done like story time over the whole thing, but as you all saw me put together the house, how it was supposed to look when the Myers still lived here. So you saw me place the really nice, perfect wallpapers, the nice flooring, the nice doors, everything was nice and spot on. But in the actual Halloween movie, the house has become decrepit because no one lives there. Nobody wants to live there. Everyone in the town thinks that it's haunted by the boogeyman. And in fact, in one of the scenes, Tommy Doyle, the kid that Laurie Strode babysits, he actually calls it the spook house, which I find absolutely hilarious. So I went in and I took all of the nice wallpaper that I had put up and all the nice flooring, and I went in and I changed it all, and that's kind of what the interior of this house is going to be. There is no furnishing, but I went in and I changed everything to look decrepit. I did leave in a couple of the more iconic pieces of furniture. You will see that when we go upstairs, but basically I'm taking all of the vampire and Strangerville like wall decals that make things look rotted, and I'm placing them all around. And you see, the reason that I did this is because this is actually how you see the house most of the time in the new movie, or not in the new movie, but in the movie, because Dr. Loomis, who is Michael Myers' therapist, or he was a psychiatrist before he escaped, he comes back to Haydenville to find him, and him and the sheriff go inside the house, and this is how they find it, obviously, because no one's been living there. Kids keep breaking in and stuff like that, so when they're looking through the house trying to find Michael, this is the view of the house that you get. So in order to make it more like the movie, that is why I chose to do this. It had nothing to do with me running out of time or being lazy. It had everything to do with the fact that in the movie, this is what the house looks like. Conveniently, this is what the house looks like. So you see me placing all these wall decals around, and you won't see me do the parents' bedroom or the left side of the house because you never see those in the movie, and I didn't know what those rooms were supposed to be, so I did decide just to leave them. But going into here, this is Michael's room, so this is one of the rooms that I end up putting furniture in. First off, I took out the light because it looked just too bright because of how many windows were in here. But now you can see I am building a bed because through the slits in his mask in that first scene, you can see his bed and it has like a multicolored quilt on it. So I decided to place a bed in here just so you could kind of like get a feel for how he walked through the house on that fateful night. And then going into this other room now, I believe, yeah, this is Judith's room. And he, as I said, he does stab her while she's sitting at her dresser or at her vanity, so I placed the vanity here and a couple of walls and holes around, And then my favorite thing that I do is I go through the debug menu and I go under get to work, and I actually find that the chalk outline from the police career, you guys know what I'm talking about. You'll see me place it in a minute, but this guy right here, I place this next to the chair, or where the chair would be, because she falls out of the chair onto the ground, and that's almost exactly where she ends up laying for the rest of the time. So I thought that was kind of cute. Not cute, wow, cool. And then going into here, this is the would-be nursery. Now, like I said, Michael didn't know his mother was pregnant, so technically this nursery wouldn't have been built yet, but this is where I figured the best placement for it would be. So I went ahead and just put a little crib in here and then some wall decorations. But besides that, that is it for this video. So I hope you all enjoyed this one. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and please have a fun and safe Halloween. I hope you all enjoy it. I know I will. So happy Halloween, everyone.